Do you have a 9-to-5 job and a side hustle that you want to grow, but feel like you don't have enough time in a day to get everything done? Today we're going to go over 6 steps on how to maximize your side hustle after your 9-to-5 while avoiding burnout and still staying focused. Tip number 1 is to make a schedule. This one is pretty obvious, but let me go more into detail with what that means. You should write a generic schedule on what you're going to be accomplishing after your 5 p.m. checkout for work. So I like to write a schedule right after 5. Realistically, you're looking at only 1 to 2 hours of focus work. This is because there are things you need to do to get you in that refreshed state again, as well as living your daily life to avoid burnout. So for me, the schedule I like to have is from 5 to 6:30. I like to work out. This gets me refreshed to work again. It's a big release of endorphins and can help your mind reset from that long day at work. There are also studies showing that working out will help with increasing focus and concentration. So that's another added plus as well. So after I go to the gym from 6:30 to 7:30, I make dinner and relax a bit. This serves as a little bit of a break for you to consume your food as well as just relax. So after you eat dinner, there is room to watch TV, scroll some social media, or read a book. Then from 7:30 to 8:30, this is where I allocate family time or spending time with your significant other if you have one. If you don't have one and you're single and you're kind of like in the grind mode, you can actually serve this as more of your focus time, so you get an additional hour to that. But from 8:30 to 10:30, that is your hard focus time. We'll get into what that means later on into this video, but for now, this is how the schedule's laid out. And then lastly, from 10:30 to 11:30, this is where you start to wind down for the night. You take a shower, you get cozy for bed, maybe drink some chamomile tea, and then eventually you start to go to sleep. Obviously, day to day, the schedule can vary. Sometimes you need to take your kids to soccer practice, but in general, the aim is to hit that 1 to 2 hours of focus time. Usually for me, when I'm writing out my schedule, I am writing it in this handy dandy journal. It's just nice when you get to cross out things, you feel more accomplished. There are other options as well. Some people I know will literally fill their Google Calendar to the brim with events that they need to hit throughout the day. And there are also just calendar apps you can find, online or in the App Store. Tip number 2 is to find your motivation on why you are accomplishing the side hustle, because once again, burnout is super real for side hustles. The reason I say to find motivation is because a lot of these things that you consider as side hustles are a lot harder than people portray them to be. Things such as online sales, drop shipping, affiliate marketing, even content creation is a lot more work than they're portrayed to be. And this is largely due to the fact that there are little barriers of entry for most of these fields. Anybody can start a Shopify store, anybody can start drop shipping. It's not so hard to do, and that's why there's a lot of competition. If you go into the mindset thinking that you're gonna become rich in 30 days by starting a new Shopify store, you are 100% going to fail. And this is why I say that you need to find your motivation. And so when I say motivation, it shouldn't be because to make more money. It should be focusing on, something that you're more passionate about than your 9-to-5. Like crocheting, if you like playing sports and making content around that, that is your motivation, not doing it solely for money. Another reason why I say that doing it for money is not a good enough excuse is that for some careers, especially software engineering and some of these more high-paying roles, if you're focused on just making money, you might as well spend your side hustle time to advance your career, because that's going to give you the greatest return on investment for your time. If you're spending 2-3 hours a day learning data structures and algorithms, learning system design, and practicing for coding interviews, you can dramatically bump your total compensation by spending these extra hours outside of work finding your skills. So unless you're already at these high-paying jobs such as Fang, if you're doing it solely for money, you might as well be sticking to that one job you have and refining it to get better and to accelerate the timeline for you to climb that corporate ladder. Tip number 3 is to use the Pomodoro technique to make your study sessions more effective. For those who do not know what the Pomodoro technique is, it is a productivity technique that follows a certain structure to get you in that study flow. Pomodoro technique is as follows. Number 1, you pick a singular task. Number 2, you set a 25-minute timer. Number 3, you work on that task non-stop for 25 minutes until that timer is up. No distractions whatsoever. You cannot even look at your phone. You cannot leave your desk even to go pee. You are solely focusing on that task. Number 4, once that task is over, you take a 5-minute break, go for a quick bathroom break, get a cup of water, or do a couple jumping jacks. You only get 5 minutes until your next session starts. And finally, after 4 Pomodoros, after those 4 25-minute sessions, you're allowed to take a 15-minute to 30-minute longer break. So I like to use this to keep me focused and to kickstart that flow state. So this technique is useful if you procrastinate a lot. And so starting the Pomodoro technique is a catalyst to start on that task immediately and will help you get into the flow state faster. There are a lot of online tools that allow you to create Pomodoros. I like the app called Flow, but you can even use a handheld timer or even a timer on your phone. Tip number 4 is to prioritize your work the next day. So side hustles are a little peculiar because you only get to work, again, maybe 1 to 2 hours on it per day on the weekdays. And on the weekends, you get to spend a longer period of focus time because usually you'll have more free time. So on the weekdays, I prioritize mandatory tasks. For example, if you have an e-com store and need to ship out product, that definitely needs to get done on that weekday. But after those mandatory tasks, I like to focus on easier tasks during the weekday. So this might be just adding some small features to your online app that you're creating or making a script for your next video. But I like to only focus on these small wins during the weekdays because they're not overwhelming. And I have the personality where if I start something, I need to finish it to completion or else it's always going to be on my mind. So that's why I choose the easier tasks on the weekdays, because if I tackle a larger task or a larger kind of architectural problem, I will be thinking about it all night long if I don't finish it, and that starts a negative feedback loop, and therefore my whole entire week will kind of get ruined from that one day. On the weekends, I focus on larger tasks that need multiple hours for me to finish. So some examples include maybe changing the architecture on a web application I'm creating. Another example might be batch filming all my upcoming YouTube videos in one day. But having my day structured like this allows me to breathe for myself and live life. So the number 1 goal with side hustles is to avoid burnout because it happens so often. And doing these easier tasks during the weekdays adds less stress to me, and therefore the chance of burnout is a lot lower than just prioritizing finishing the hardest, most important things even on the weekdays. Tip number 5 is to leverage automation/software for some of your more simpler tasks. So for example, if you sell a product and have a lead magnet, it would be wise to automate the lead flow through third-party software. Some good automation software are things like Zapier or even Make, but these tools usually don't require any coding experience and can help you buy back that time, especially time that you're really crunched for because this is your side hustle. The automation software can also help you automate social media posts, even simple data entry. It's useful because since we have such a limited amount of time per day to focus on our side hustle, we need to optimize that small window of time as much as possible. We want to spend this small amount of time improving our business and not doing repetitive tasks that can fill up your 1 to 2 hours per day. Some other examples for software that you can use to, again, buy back some of your time are using some apps such as Calendly. People can book appointments with you directly instead of emailing you and having this whole back and forth. It's just a lot simpler, adds less friction, and again, saves you more time. Tip number 6 is to outsource when you get some traction for your side hustle. I would only do this if you made some amount of money with your side hustle, but if you're starting out at absolute zero, you could probably skip this step. But when you're gaining traction in your business, you can start to outsource some of the more basic jobs that automation or software can't do. So the way we outsource is to hire a virtual assistant or VA. What a VA is a mainly remote worker from another country. Some examples of work VAs can do are researching or even scripting some of your YouTube videos. They can also do product research for new products. If you have an e-commerce store, there are also some that specialize in data and they can do basic data gathering. But the reason we hire remotely and out of country is because usually the rates are usually much cheaper and affordable than employees in the United States. I've actually hired some VAs in the past. A lot of VAs get hired from the Philippines because it's a primarily English speaking country. There are also some that get hired in Latin America, mainly Brazil, Colombia, and even Argentina, because those countries are also decently strong in English. But once you scale your team, your 1 to 2 hours of work will get divvied up a little bit into managing some of these VAs. Since their English is not very strong and they need a lot more guidance, you'll have to do daily or weekly check-ins with them, and will need to over document what you need them to do with standard operating procedures or SOPs. You can usually do this through Notion or even Google Drive, but you really need to make sure that your instructions are super clear and that they can follow your instructions to a T. In my past, I've only hired Filipino VAs, so if you're looking to hire a VA, you can go to onlinejobs.ph to hire one. Interview them well. They will work hard, but again, you need to guide them really well and leave nothing up to interpretation. I can make another video on this if you want because I've had experience, but that was tip number 6. So hopefully with these tips, you're able to just get a little bit more efficient with your side hustle. Once again, having a side hustle is not easy. It is an extremely long grind and you will get stressed. Try to avoid burnout as much as possible. And if you're able to do this and have purpose, your side hustle can be successful. What side hustle are you trying to accomplish? Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.